All right, hello everybody. It's John here for Planet Kambo, and I'm here with my good buddy Alex Lazarev, also known as Sasha, who is a very interesting guy. He's got a lot to talk about, and he's been through an incredible healing journey and an awakening journey. So I thought it would be a great idea to get him on the podcast. So welcome, Alex.
Hello, beautiful human beings. What's going on?
And you are, where are you based at the moment?
Ecuador.
You're in Ecuador.
A little hippie town called Vilcabamba in the middle of Ecuador. Well, in the southern part of Ecuador, yeah.
Cool, man. So give everybody a bit of a background. Who is Alex Lazarev?
Well, nobody, as I've recently discovered. Just a dream.
Yeah.
But we'll pretend for a moment before we get into it that I'm a person and you're a person, right? We'll do that whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I was born a human male in Canada, which is a particular part of the planet. And it was not a fun start. It was quite brutal. I had a lot of abuse. Mom was, I hate to use the word psycho, but kind of like a rageaholic. You know, anything I did that wasn't perfect, she just tons of verbal abuse, tons of psychological abuse, dodging things, like boots flying at my head all the time. So it was a rough one. No father figure. Father ran away when I was quite young, when I was 3 actually, to get away from moms. And so I had it tough, and I had no, as you can imagine, no confidence. I was like, I was always like super needy, wanting to be friends with the kids, and all the kids are like, this guy's weird. He smells funny. Nobody told him to shower. He doesn't brush his teeth because he didn't get those instructions. He's wearing really cheap, weird ass clothes, and his shoe, like other kids would have like Nike shoes, right? And they'd be like, what kind of shoes do you have? And I'd be like, my brand of my shoes, it's made in China. That's my brand. $5 shoes, John. It hurt to run. And they were silver. I had silver shoes. That's not good, John. It's not good for anybody. They called me Space Boy, silver shoe. It was unending abuse. Other kids, I mean, it was a weird childhood. Other kids, would get like a dog or a cat as a pet. I had a goat, John. This is downtown Toronto. My parents bought me a goat. If you wanted to find me, you just follow the goat shit, because that's all they did.
I didn't know that. You never told me.
Oh, it's unbelievable. It was ridiculous. So it was just a really tough childhood. Somehow I once saw a comedian doing a set on TV, and I just got this intuition. It was like, okay, you need to do stand-up comedy. So after running away from home at age of 15, being homeless for a month, living in youth hostels, all this kind of stuff, I was still technically kind of, half between youth hostels and maybe having my own place or whatever. But I started doing stand-up comedy at age 17, did that professionally up till, I was about 30. And then at some point in my late 20s, I got heavily into the whole dating scene. I had a lot of anger towards women. I couldn't connect with women, with the feminine, as you can imagine, with my history with my mother. So I just decided, hey, I got to get this down. I really liked women, but I couldn't understand why they didn't like me, didn't want to connect with me. So I got into this whole business of improving myself and my confidence and, feeling better about who I was. So I went on this big healing journey, and lots of flirting and, lots of ladies. And it was a great time. It was completely encompassed. It was like all encompassing, that whole experience. And then around 2015, there was a deeper calling, and I had to stop that stuff. And all I wanted to do was just really wake up. Like, I really wanted the answer to the question, like, who am I? What am I? What is the nature of this reality? And I'd have my first awakening in 2009. It was at the time was really profound. Like, I would tell people the story and they'd be like, wow, that's pretty crazy. But from 2015, I really started to just, like, I had to wake up. I was going around seeing all the gurus and reading the books and watching, and just anything I could do, praying, meditating, everything, plant medicines. I mean, all of it to wake up. And then, it's been an absolute roller coaster for the last 5 years. Totally crazy. Yeah.
Right. I've heard a few of your stories, some of the awakenings you've had. And it's certainly interesting, to say the least. So maybe you could just share one or two of these awakenings, or maybe like a synopsis of all of them.
Yeah, it's they're really, no matter how many times I tell my buddies the stories, it's like there's no words for it. But sure, I'll give you the key takeaways, which are really what it's about. So the first one in 2009, I won't get into that one. I've got that one on a YouTube video anyway, and it was just basically after helping a random person, it was just the energy came down my spine, and it was just the realization of just like there's no death. We're all souls here to help each other on our journey, and I'm here to tell everybody that there's no death, and we're all reincarnating, and don't worry. I got that download. That was like 2009. I was like, okay. But after that, it kind of was a quiet period, and I just went on my life. About 3 years ago, there was one awakening that was a sneak peek of what was to come. At the time, it was really cool, but it was still a sneak peek. I was in London, and I was sitting there. I was just standing there, and I had this. Suddenly, I was just entering this zone of absolute zen and presence, where I was like, "Whoa, I got to sit down." And I sat down, and I completely forgot that I was a person. Like there was absolutely, like I didn't identify as a person at all. It was just presence, and I was just sitting there staring at a wall, and I was like, this is fun, but I'm supposed to go to yoga. So this little voice in my head was like, go to yoga, but stay as nobody, stay in this state. And I was like, okay. So I get up, and I knew if I leave the house that, my girlfriend at the time, she's going to think I'm weird if I don't say anything. So I'm like, okay, what would a person say if they were going to the yoga class? So I walked up to her and I just said, I'm going to yoga. See you later. In total monotone. And she just went, you're weird. What's going on? And then I thought that was funny. So I left. I go downstairs. I wait for the bus, get on the bus, get off the bus. As I'm walking towards the yoga class, again, somebody had recognized me off YouTube, and they said Sasha, and I knew they were talking to me, even though I know I wasn't a person. So, but I knew that they thought it was me. So I'm like, okay, I don't want to be an asshole, so I'll talk to this person. And I was like, again, what would Sasha say? I was like, hey man, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Listen, I got to go to this thing, but if you message me on Facebook, I'll message you back, because I knew I couldn't have a conversation because I wasn't a person. And he's like, okay, cool. Then I went to the yoga class, did the yoga. And then eventually after about 30 minutes, I just sort of went back to normal. But that was really a sneak peek of just like presence with no person. But there was no God realization. There was no higher level. It was simply, there was no personality present whatsoever.
Yeah, no self.
No self. So that one you can identify more as like the Eastern, just nothing. That was the closest to all the other experiences.
That's kind of like level one, the sort of where a lot of people get to, and they think that that's it.
That's not it. That's not even close to it.
Yeah.
That's like a little sampler just to see how you can take it. If you don't flip out there, then you might be okay. Now the big one, and usually when I tell the story, people go, "So which drugs were you on?" I'm gonna just pre-frame it. No drugs. I was dry fasting quite a bit. I was reading Conversations with God. I was doing my spiritual practices, putting incense, praying every day. I was doing all these kind of things, qigong, stuff like that. But there were no drugs involved whatsoever in the following story. So basically, I was in New York City. This was the end of 2018. And I was really feeling inspired. And I was filming a lot of content. Some videos were going viral that I was filming at the time. And it was really fun. And I really was just having a blast and really living what I thought was my purpose, waking people up and sharing and doing talks. And so I was really in my element. That feeling where you're doing what you're here to do. And you just feel great. Yeah. It was that feeling, which by the way is the best feeling. And for both my awakening experiences, I was always exactly in that state of absolute being in alignment, which is noteworthy. So I was feeling really, really good. And the thing I was doing when it happened, I was literally in a small flat in Manhattan in New York, in my buddy's flat. And I was sitting in front of my laptop, and I looked at my old, at this point I had a new website, but my old website, which was all about dating women and stuff, it was still kind of up. And I looked at the site and I was like, this doesn't represent me. It's kind of cheesy and it's all about women, but it doesn't represent me anymore. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to rewrite the copy for this. And I start writing copy from a very authentic place of like, this is who I am. This is my gift. This is how I want to help the world. And I'm writing this copy. And I just felt such divine inspiration. I just felt so inspired to go out there and bring my gifts to the world. And the thought that entered my head was, I hope I never lose this feeling of inspiration and excitement. I hope this never goes away. That was the first thought. Immediately came a second thought, which was, I am this inspiration. Inspiration is my nature. And followed by the thought, this inspiration, this excitement is God. And then the final thought came, well, if that's true, then I am God. That was it. I was gone. In that moment, the amount of energy that hit me was beyond description. It was like my spine, all around me, and my spine to the bottom and to the top of my head was kind of on fire. And it was the absolute remembering. And the word is remembering. I remembered that I was God, essentially, that me and God were one thing. And it was such a shock because it was like, you remember it, and any question, like all questions were answered, like anything about anything. As soon as I had the question, the answer was there. There was nothing to ask. I was just sitting there in the absolute awe that I am God, and so is everybody, and so is everything, and it's always been this way, and it could never be any other way. And the shock of realizing, holy shit, I thought I was a person. What the fuck? The realization, I'm not the person, I'm not the mind, none of it is myself. It was fucking ridiculous. And it was shocking. I mean, I literally later heard the term God shock, and that's how I would describe it. This particular awakening, it was that God and I were one thing, and everything that had to do with the body was completely fucking ridiculous. I understood immediately why they call it liberation, because every worry, every doubt, every fear I ever had in a moment was gone, because they were all related to being a person. Anything you ever thought, oh, this sucks, it's all because you believe you're a person. You're not a person. And it was almost comical to believe that I ever had this crazy notion that I was a person. It was insane. It's like coming out of a bad dream. It was literally like, how did I forget the truth of what I am? And it was insane. It was like 6 days of that. I mean, the peak was probably a day or two, but then 6 days was very, very strong. I couldn't eat food. If my body would reject any food, I was so much prana coming in. I just felt amazing. I couldn't sleep. Total inspiration to do my purpose. Tons of ideas for videos and things that I could do. At one point, I went to the Russian sauna, and I was just standing there, and I'm just like, wow. So it's all just myself. Even though I'm here and God is there, it's all one. And I literally said to God, I said, so we're doing this together, huh? And if that's true, give me a sign. And again, as soon as I said, give me a sign, rush of heat, boom, hitting my, going down my body. So literally going, talk to me, boom, there it is again. It just like I needed a confirmation. So it was just insane. And the things that were happening during that week were just wild. Like people, at one point I was just sitting there and for the first time I could sit and just be in peace and bliss. There was nothing to do. There's nothing to achieve. Everything's like, what is there to do? There's nothing to do. You're everything. Just sit the fuck down and enjoy. So I'm just sitting there, and my friend comes in, and I was just sitting there at peace, and he looks at me, and I looked at him for maybe a minute, and I just kind of looked away, and I was just sitting there, and he literally started to shift, and he just starts going, holy shit. This isn't really real, is it? And I said, no. He said, none of this is really real. It's all about the love. We're all one thing. I said, yeah. And he just sat there, and he started fucking just getting it. I didn't even say anything. I was just sitting around, and he started to get it. Another friend of mine who was going through troubles, and he was really in his person thing. Another friend started having a meltdown in front of me. Like, I'm just sitting there totally blissed out, and he's like, what the fuck is going on? And he just started ranting about shit, his problems, and all this kind of stuff. And I later understood that if you really don't have your shit together and you're around somebody who's in those states, it starts to like jar. It's very jarring. It's like it brings your shit up.
The ego would backlash big time.
Oh yeah, big time.
It would start defending itself.
Yeah, that's what started to happen. It was very interesting.
Like almost a form of Shakti Pat, when you can transmit Kundalini to someone else, that kind of thing. And I've heard of that as well, where people go and are in the presence of a guru somewhere, and then suddenly they just spontaneously awake, or they burst into tears, or. Yeah.
I mean, that happened when I met Muji a couple of years before that. I met Muji, and I gave him a hug, and I just started crying. I just broke down, just like a bitch. I just totally started crying. It was really funny, but for 30 seconds, and then he's like, okay, good, gives me a pat, and he goes on. And it was great. It just needed to come out, because we're holding on to so many ideas and so much pain and all this kind of shit. And so when we're in that field, we just the real, like, it's like on some energetic level, we realize actually it's all bullshit, and that there is a solution, that actually the truth is so much grander, and we somehow vibrationally feel it, and we just let go. So that was insane. And there's like, it was just a crazy week of like downloads. And again, it was just indescribable, but it was really God realization. That's really what it was. Now the next, and I thought I was done. I literally was like, okay, well, that's it. That's what I was looking for. And I was no longer really desperately seeking. Up to that point, I was really wanted to know. I was like really going. After that, I was like, okay, I'm good. I got the answer. And then the bigger one was coming, which I did not expect at all. The next one, you could say, that one was pretty much the almost full meal deal, but the next one was like the end of any idea that I need to find something out. It was just the end of Sasha. This one is a crazy story, man. It's like, if somebody told me this story, I would just be like, what the fuck are you talking? I mean, only after what I've been through, I would be like, cool. But any other time in my life, I'd just be like, it couldn't have happened. So I met my teacher, Paul. He's amazing, really high level being. I met him in Ecuador during the breatharian initiation. And I recognized him. I just had this love for him right away. I just loved the shit out of him immediately. It was crazy. It's inexplicable. And then I went to visit him in Vancouver. And then we had another something happen where basically we soul recognized each other. I don't know if anyone's had that experience when somebody looks at you and they actually see you, but the real you, like fully, like they know who you are on the deepest soul level. That happened with both of us, where we recognized each other and we're like, holy shit, I know you big time. And, he remembered our past lives together and all this crazy shit. So he's basically kind of like my soul dad. He's like my father in the astral kind of heavenly realms, not here physically, but he's actually my real dad, feels like. So at one point we're hanging out in Vancouver, everything's going great. And we go visit some of his friends in one of the islands, Vancouver. And so, so one day it's kind of, I don't know, 11 a.m. or 11:30. And he says, yeah, let's go down and I'll show you. There's this really big ancient tree. It's like 1,000-year-old original growth tree. And I was like, okay, sounds good. So we go over to this tree and it's huge. I got pictures of it. It's just, you don't even see trees like this. It was ridiculous. And I'm standing there just doing a little breathing and a little qigong in front of this tree. And I can only describe that I got some kind of download, like some energetic transfer had happened, and I felt it happen. Something happened where I was like, okay. And I didn't really want to leave the tree. It felt so good. And he's like, come, let me show you the lake. There's a beautiful lake over here. I said, all right, let's go to the lake. So we start walking. Now, when this happened, I should say the night before, we were all hanging around and they were smoking weed and I had a puff of weed. And what happens, and I very rarely smoke weed, but I had one puff and sometimes it puts me into my comedy mode, right? Where I just start getting really funny and I just start joking around and ripping it into myself and making jokes and stuff like that. So that kind of happened the night before and it really set me off. And for the first time in a long time, I really went into like comedy mode, but like spiritual comedy mode. So like, higher level jokes, not immature, stupid dick jokes, but like really like, hey, if we're all one and I'm a narcissist, that means I love you, right? And if I treat, if you're an asshole, it's okay. I'm only mistreating myself, whatever. But it was just all these, I was just joking around, but it was, I don't even remember now what it said, but it was, everyone was laughing and it was spiritual comedy and it was great. So as we were walking to the lake the next day, I was saying to Paul, I was like, man, last night was so much fun. Once again, like in New York, I was saying, I felt so inspired. I just felt so in alignment. Like, this is my gift. This is my unique gift. Everyone's got theirs, but my unique gift is being funny and waking people up. So I was like, man, this is really what I'm here for. And I feel like this is my path. And I don't know exactly how it will manifest, whether I'll get back into stand-up big time or whatever, but this is me. And I just feel so excited about this. This is my gift that I'm bringing. And then I said to him, I used to be afraid that if I was to show my gift fully, I would be killed because I would wake up too many people in a way that certain forces don't want me to wake up. And Paul looked at me and he just said, we've all been killed lots of times. And then I said, yeah, well, I'm not afraid of being killed anymore because I am. And as I went on with this speech, about halfway through, I realized I wasn't the one speaking. So the speech was, I'm not afraid to be killed anymore because I am. I am everyone who's ever lived in this realm. I am everyone who lives in this realm now. And I am everyone who will ever live in this realm. And whether it takes 100 years or 500, I will not leave this realm until all my brothers are liberated because I am. That was the speech, and I was looking him right in the eyes, and there was this transfer. I mean, it's indescribable, the energy that was flowing to me, through me, as I was saying this truth, which is just, your standard spiritual truth. But it was like our eyes locked, this tremendous energy went through me. And as I said the words, even though I'd had this previous experience, again, I was re-experiencing the absolute truth of I am all beings. And it just was an absolute knowing. And as I said these words, maybe 1 second of silence, I felt absolute terror and fear, and beyond, like, just terror. And I knew I was about to die. And I looked Paul right in the eyes and I said, I'm dying. And he said, with love in his eyes, he just said, it's okay. And then I went through death, which was weird. I remember my thought process, and apparently physically what happened is I let out a death scream and physically passed out, and he caught me and put me on the ground. All I experienced was, once I said I'm dying and he said it's okay, suddenly I was just there. I wasn't in the body anywhere. I was just there. And my thought process was, okay, I just realized I just had the ultimate again of like, I'm all beings forever, but now I'm dying. That's a bit strange. I wasn't expecting that, but I'm not going to fight it because I know what happens when you die. So I wasn't afraid. I was like, okay, I'm dying. I'm going to go to the light. And I just accepted it right away. I said, okay, if I'm going back to God, then that's how it is. And I was like, all right, here we go. And I waited a few seconds, nothing happened. I'm like kind of energetic looking at my watch. Okay, any second now, going back to the infinite one. Here we go. And a few moments went by again. And then I wake up. I'm laying on the ground, and Paul is crouching at my feet. And I was so convinced that I had died, I thought I'd actually gone to heaven, and he was my guide on the other side. That's how absolute sure I was that I died. And so the first words out of my mouth were, am I dead? Did I die? And he goes, no, the old you died. You're still here. And I was like, okay. And I was super disoriented, like really, really dizzy, like looking around, like, am I really still on the planet? Everything looked really different. Everything looked very, very different. But I was kind of looking around. I was like, okay. Then I got up, and for the rest of that day, cannot be described at all. But it was such a high level experience that I'll try and put it into words. The truth of what I am, and it's everybody. It's literally the consciousness that we all have, the self-awareness, the I am. That is the truth of our nature. I am consciousness itself, but without no time, just eternal. Like there was no past, there was no future, and there wasn't even a now. There was just all that is forever. And that is my nature. Existence, literally, I am existence. Every piece of it, every sentient being everywhere is myself. That's it. And it was that for the fucking day where I could barely walk. Sometimes it was like they were treating me like a child. I was just like, I was in such a state. I was literally looking at everything, like everything was God and everything was myself. And I was just staring into people's eyes, like just blown away. And it was just God in their eyes. I was looking at the trees, it was literally like a newborn baby. It was literally like being, waking up out of a nightmare. Like literally your whole life was a nightmare and you just woke up in the truth, which is your everything. And you're just in this one little dream, but it's not you and it's not real. You're all of existence. Everything in every realm, everywhere is yourself. And
it couldn't be any other way.
It's the only thing that is the self. And so the concept of good or bad in that state is absurd, because you can never be hurt because you're everything. You're everything. So even if somebody murders somebody else, so what's the difference? It's just a little part of you killing another part of you. You're all of it. So what's the difference?
That everything is unconditional love, including the worst serial killer in history, Mother Teresa, the Holocaust. All of it's unconditional love because it doesn't matter.
It's all the self. It's all you. Yeah. I mean, I remember when I was reading Power versus Force, and it says what your belief is at certain levels. So at 500, you're this, and at 600, blah, blah, blah. And it said 700 plus. It just said self is. And I was like, huh, that's interesting. That's what it is. It's just what is. It's not. It's neither good or bad. It's just what is.
And there's no reason to it either. It doesn't have any logic to it. Like, because the mind will always go, well, hang on a minute, but what came before it, or what's behind it? And there isn't anything, because it just pure.
It just is.
It just is. Yeah.
Existence is. Otherwise, we just wouldn't be here. So it just is. There's no causes and effects.
It can't be known. It can't be known. It's unknowing. It's the opposite to knowing. You can't know it. It just is.
Well, when you're in, so the best way to kind of describe it is that of which I'm speaking always is. But the ego and the person and all these thoughts we have are in the way of that. And if you take away all the beliefs that you have of being a person and all this kind of shit, that truth just is. And that's the thing about it. It's like, you can't explain it to people, because it's like, well, but when somebody told me the other day, well, you sound very cocky, you sound very arrogant when you talk about this stuff. I'm like, yeah, but because that's what is. There's no, when you have the direct experience, there's no questions, there's no confusion. That's just what is. You're in the way. You're an illusion. I'm an illusion. We're not real.
When you try and tell someone, they'll try and understand it with their mind, and you can't, because the mind can't work with it. So like you said, it has to be a direct experience. It has to be intimate.
Dude, it's so shocking. I can barely believe it happened. And I was in that state that whole day. And then for weeks afterwards, I'll tell you something crazy. So you've read Power versus Force, right?
Yeah.
So a couple of things during that, sitting there, I literally thought, shit, how am I going to do anything in my life? Like, in that state, I could never get on a plane or do a comedy show. All the ideas of the person, I'm going to go do comedy, they're all out the fucking window. I was like, I'm not going to be able to do anything if this is my state. This is hours in, and I'm still in the same state. I'm just like, my life is over, which isn't bad. If I literally stayed in that state, I would literally just be an enlightened master on a fucking hill, and people would come and sit around me, and I'm like, well, I'd be in a state of pure bliss forever. So that's not bad. But I had so many ideas of traveling and doing all these things, and it was like, that's all out the window. Fuck. But I was just too happy and at peace to worry about it. But I had the thought, and I'm sitting there, and I said to Paul, I said, calibrate me now. And he goes, there's nobody here to calibrate. And I said, well, I can still talk, so there must be some person here. Calibrate me now. And he calibrated me, and it was 1,000. It was the full. Yeah. It was the full meal deal. There's no, as a human, that's the one. That's it. And I was like, holy shit. And I was like, okay, so now I know. The other one in New York was about 915. So it was up there, but it was not the full meal deal. And I remember that night. Now the story gets crazy. That's not even that. I mean, that's pretty fucking crazy, but it goes on. That night, and literally they were treating me like a child, like a newborn child. I was walking and looking at everything like for the first time. I remember when I took a breath, it was like breathing for the first time. The amount I was able to breathe, it's like my lung capacity had doubled, because there's so much stress. You don't even realize it, but with the stress of being a person and believing you're a person, that you could be harmed and you could die, is tremendous. When I realized I wasn't, then I was all that is. I was able to breathe so much more. I was like, oh my God, it feels so good to breathe. I've never taken a real breath before. And he's looking at me like, mm-hmm. And so that night they walked me over to this external structure, this big ass fancy tent that I was staying in. And Paul and a friend, and they said, yeah, are you okay staying here for the night? And they made some joke like, I'd rather be here alone than in that main house with you weirdos. And they laughed. And I was so relieved. I was like, oh, you guys laughed. That means I'm still funny, right? And Paul was like, yeah, don't worry. You still get to be, you still have your personality. Don't worry. It's just going to be better. And I was like, okay. Because for a while there, I didn't have a personality because there's no person. I couldn't even talk about my past. They were asking me about, can you tell us about comedy therapy? It was this program I run. I'll talk about it at some point. But basically comedy therapy is you're joking about your past. You learn how to make jokes about your past and your story and all this kind of stuff. And I had done it in Vancouver. So they asked me like, tell me about that. And I started talking about myself, my old self, like, oh yeah, when I was a kid, this happened. And after about 30 seconds, I stopped and I went, I can't talk about this stuff because I'm lying. Because I'm not that person. It's just a story that I have access to in my mind, but it's not me. It has nothing to do with me. So I can't even continue talking. they're like, okay. So after I made that joke and I'm in my tent, I tried to go to sleep, and I was not able to sleep. Every time I started falling asleep, I'd wake up screaming in terror. I'd literally wake up going, ah, like really fucking loud, and I didn't know what was going on. The next night, same thing, could not sleep. I literally slept in the bed between Paul and his wife, and Paul basically told me what was going on. He goes, yeah, so apparently when you go through that level of death, ego death, the level of trauma, that separation trauma, that separation from God, all those fear-based thoughts and all that shit, it can't be in your body. You're at such a high level of consciousness, like it has to leave your body. So you literally scream it out. So he says that night he gave me some mantras. One of them was like, I am, God is. And as I was falling asleep, I was just saying the mantras. And he was working on me energetically. He says there was lots of divine beings and angels, all kinds of crazy shit in the room. And and so a couple more times I started to fall asleep, I'd wake up in terror, then it would happen again, but I would scream a little bit less, and then it was more like a startle, and then eventually I fell asleep for about an hour and a half, and I woke up, and he looks at me, and I look at him, and I'm like, I think I'm okay, I'm gonna go to bed. Went to sleep, and then woke up the next day, and I was fine. So that was the explanation for that. So he told me when he went through the big ego death, that process of screaming went on for 10 days. 10 days of not sleeping. It's like fucking torture. And when I was in the bed and I'm looking at him and I'm like, this is really fucking intense. He looked at me and he's like, well, you wanted enlightenment. This is it. And I was like, okay, yeah, no backing out now. So the toughest part, the moment where I realized I was going to die and then I died, that was very fast. But the screaming out all that separation fear, that actually went on for a couple of nights. That was actually quite difficult. That was the difficult part. The first part was easy. The death was like, I'm dying. Okay, I'm dying. That's it. It wasn't a big deal. Now, the other part of the story, which I haven't said yet, is very interesting. So the voice, we figured out the voice, and I didn't say this on my Woke as Fuck podcast. I tell the story, but I didn't want to freak people out. So I'm like, well, I'll omit this part because people might be weirded out or whatever. And now I'm just like, nah, I'm just going to speak all the truth. I don't care. So the voice that came through and spoke through me was Christ. It was Christ. And Paul is a big follower. He's been studying like Course in Miracles for like 27 years. So he's really in with with Christ. So that was who spoke through me, and that was the Bodhisattva vow, which I realized later, that everybody is liberated before me. That's the Bodhisattva vow. That was spoken through me as I went through the death. So that's very interesting. So since then, I have more of a relationship with Christ, as you can imagine, because he killed Sasha.
And Christ is not a person. It's not Jesus. It's a consciousness.
No, it's a consciousness.
It inhabited Jesus, and then it also inhabited you. Is Christ?
Well, it didn't inhabit Jesus any more than inhabited anybody. It exists. Yeah, it exists. It is, and you can reach Christ consciousness, and Jesus did, and that's amazing. But so did lots of other people before him. There's all these other stories of all these other people as well that are out there. So yeah, and I wasn't a Christian, and like I like Jesus and Christ and all that stuff, but that just happened that way as it did. And so yeah, now we talk sometimes, and I do some prayers to him and stuff. But yeah, it really changed. It's just wild. So in that ultimate, also certain things, there's certain knowledge that I just know now, like that again, it just is, and it can't be questioned, or there's no doubt. It just is what it is. Once again, like it or don't like it, that's just reality. And so the main downloads that I just know is that what happened to me will happen to all human beings. Every human being that is incarnated today will go through that, the death of the ego and waking up to the truth of reality. There's no escaping it. Enlightenment is the destiny of all human beings. You could even be purposely trying not to wake up. You're still going to wake up. There's nothing any human being can do to avoid spiritual enlightenment. Impossible. The only one thing a human being can't do is not become enlightened. It's the only thing. You can not do lots of things. You could do lots of things, but the one thing you can never do is not wake up. What you can control, that you can't control. What you can control, though, is how fast. That's in your power. You want to do it this lifetime, next lifetime? You want to do another 10,000 lifetimes of dicking around and being miserable? That's a choice. But whether you will reach spiritual enlightenment, you will. Yeah. It's inevitable. It is the nature of consciousness to evolve into higher and higher levels until we're returning to source. That literally is what consciousness does. That is direct knowledge. That's what it does. There's nothing else consciousness does. It keeps evolving, and it might go low, and you might fuck Adolf Hitler, fucking Stalin. It's a crazy ride. A lot of nasty shit can happen, but ultimately returning to God is the point. And that's what we do as human beings. That is why, even though separation is difficult and painful and scary, that adventure of returning back to God is the greatest adventure, the grandest adventure. There's nothing better than that. And that's our destiny as human beings.
Yeah, it's the ultimate path that a human being can walk. And like you said, eventually we're all going to do it, but it just depends whether it's this time around or next time around or 10,000 times in the, or say in the future. It's not in the future because they're all happening now. It's all the same. Like you say, every person that's ever lived and ever will live, and it's all happening now because there isn't anywhere else for it to happen. So
no, time is absolutely a construct. It's just a construct. It's just for us to be able to grow and experience all this kind of stuff, and that's great. But it's not real. So everything just is. World War II is happening now. Every being that reaches enlightenment and returns to God is happening now. We just happen to be experiencing this one tiny little lifetime right now.
But, no, that's it. Time is like a story that's playing on the movie screen, and the screen is the absolute. It's an appearance. At the time is an appearance, a way of seeing, a way of interpreting what's happening, but it doesn't exist in of itself as an absolute. Wow, man, that's very, very interesting. I mean, I've had some enlightenment experiences, nothing like what you've had, but I've had. I think I've told you about them before. I've had moments. There was one recently. I think I sent you a voice note about it where I was looking in the mirror and I realised that face that I saw in the mirror, I never was that person. It was like looking at another person. And when I was downstairs and I had my eyes closed and I was seeing images of me as a child and as a boy and as a man, and I'm looking and I'm like, oh, I never was that guy. I've been so like invested and tethered to that image in the mirror, but it was so obvious that wasn't who I am. Because when you look in the mirror, you have to conceptualize that face in the mirror is on your shoulders. But when I really look, if I just turn my attention inwards, I don't even have a head. I don't have a face, which I know sounds absurd, but it's the truth. Because if you look at what is and not how you're conceptualizing what's happening, try and find your own head, and you can't find it because it's not there. It only exists as a story. And like that, the John character, I saw, in that moment, I saw the whole story of John that I've been completely wrapped up in and identified in. And in that moment, I realized, oh, I never ever was that person. His whole life never happened. It's just, it's like a memory in my head of something that happened, but it didn't happen because I can't. It's like a dream. Yeah. Like when you have a dream at night and then you wake up in the morning, did anything really happen? No, there was just an appearance.
Yeah. I mean, literally, it's like this is just one really long dream, but it's just a dream. And it's like when you wake up from it, it's such joy and bliss. It's just unbelievable because we're so believe that this is real. We really believe that we're this person with the story and all this kind of drama. It's not us. It's not us. It's never been us. We are literally the infinite one creator, God, Godhead, whatever you want to call it. There's only one. That's another one of the understandings. That which I am, there is only that one being. In all of existence, there is only one being. It is that self, and it is dreaming and experiencing being everything else, everything. So when Bashar says the all is the one and the one is the all, that's it. That's the simplest explanation. That one is the all. And the all, which I'm a little part of as this person, is the one. That it is only one. So when they say separation is an illusion, it's quite literal. This is an illusion of separation, but there is no separation. We are just that one being that simply is and can never not be, and it always has been and always will be. That is the truth. We're literally God in this silly form.
It's fractal and holographic in nature, like you said. That like each with a hologram. Each part of the hologram is the whole. Within each part of the hologram is contained the whole, and within the whole is contained each part. Each one is a fractal of itself, which is what God is just a fractal being. Patterns within patterns within patterns that go on forever, or turtles all the way down, as they say. I mean, but it's amazing, but also terrifying as well. And also, is it not? I know I've heard some people speak about, like, it's incredible being, feeling that the unconditional love and being all that is, but also when you are the only thing that can exist or has ever existed, there's nobody to share it with.
Well, I mean, yeah, I've heard of people have that. I've heard of people go into like a dark night of the soul. Yeah, because of that. But I don't feel that way at all. I mean, it's just like, because the pleasure and the bliss of again, it's beyond. I mean, I can't. I've seen people write in books, sages and stuff, and they say that the bliss of God, and they try and put it in numbers, and it was like whatever the number was, a 5 or a 6, whatever, doesn't matter. And then to the power of, and it was so many numbers that it was like you couldn't possibly imagine. And they were saying it's that much more enjoyable than the bliss, than even like the highest level of attainment as a human being. The level I was in was so fucking mind-blowing. I cannot fathom there being existing and having more than that level of joy and oneness. And I mean, I can't. And yet, as a human, even at that 1,000 experience, apparently that's nothing compared to, apparently archangels are at 50,000, and then God is infinite way more. So, and that's our state. We go back to being that. I mean, holy shit, to reemerge back to the Godhead and be permanently in a state that's that hot. It's boggling to the mind. It's truly, truly boggling to the mind. But I did have a dark night even after that experience. Again, it was weeks and weeks of total bliss. And it was interesting because I was able to experience all these states. So there was the 1,000, and then for a few days I was in the 900s. And it was, dude, I would wake up. There's no thoughts. Literally, you wake up and you're just consciousness, and you're looking at the ceiling, and there's no thoughts. It's just bliss, peace and bliss. There's no one thinking anything. Things are happening. Your body is doing things automatically. If I need to piss, I just see myself having to pee, making food. There's nobody there making any decisions. Things are just happening automatically. It's you can't. It's indescribable that you're doing all these things, but you're not doing them. Yeah. They're just happening.
But that's all happening anyway. But when the ego's in there, there's a story, a thought stream. Yes. Like, I'm doing this.
I'm doing this.
Yeah. Do you remember I came on your podcast years ago, the first one, and I was talking about the I, and I was saying that this is from Rupert Spira, but that the I is like a filler thought. So imagine you have 10 thoughts. So you have 9 thoughts, then they're all just appearing. And then thought number 10 is the I thought that says, I made all of those happen, but everything's just happening anyway. And there's just a thought stream. There's this filler thought that comes in that says, I'm doing this, I did that, I thought this, I thought that. But every thought and every action, it just appears. It just appears. Even though it really feels like you're doing it, it's impossible super weird to be anybody doing anything.
It's super weird because I made a video bonus about trying to talk about this on my woke YouTube channel. But the truth is so different at different levels of consciousness. So during that time, I was fully aware that Sasha doesn't exist. Sasha doesn't make any decisions. Everything is just unfolding, and I get to watch it. And there's absolutely nothing ever to do or to decide on, because everything is just happening perfectly, and you just get to enjoy it. But eventually, it took quite a while. It took weeks, but eventually, you go back to a relatively more normal level of consciousness, but nowhere near like before. So life is quite different now, but still, at some point, the mind does come in, but the quality of the thoughts are different. It's more about, I want to do this, or I might want to make this video, or I wonder what this, it's more of there's very little, there's no fear. Very, very, very difficult to relate to any fear thoughts. Things don't affect me. Like, it could be really bad news. There's a coronavirus, but everything is just always okay. Everything is always fine. There's no, like those trains of thought that are like worry based, they just don't have any pull anymore. So even if something comes, I just see it and I go, oh, interesting, there's a thought there. But it doesn't have any pull on you anymore. So it's not like, and it's also, people go, oh, well, do you really not have an ego? No, of course I have an ego, but it's like a layer of the fear, the separation pain, being separate from God. It's like a layer of fears, and a layer of that ego got stripped away. So now ego just means separation from. So I'm still separate from God because, look, I'm in a body. I can't be God fully. Like, there's still some level of separation. So that, in that way, I have an ego. But that story of like I have to do things or achieve things or be, there's nothing to do. I am absolutely complete because I'm everything that is. My self-identification is everything. I could not go back to trying to believe that I'm this person. It's fucking ridiculous at this point. So I just don't get caught up in anything, like nothing really. It's just quite a detachment. And actually for a short period, for about 2.5, 3 months, I went through this phase of like, I didn't see the point of doing anything because I'm like, there's nothing to fix. There's nothing to fix. Everyone will wake up when they're ready to. It's their destiny. God is running everything. There's nothing for me to do. And I literally was at a point where I wanted to get rid of everything, get rid of the last of my crypto, get rid of all my possessions, and just go somewhere in a house or a hill somewhere and just meditate and just be with God and do nothing because there's no point. Literally, I was ready to dump all of this because there was no point to it. And I really had to think about it and feel into it. And then after quite a bit of contemplation and just feeling and waiting, I just had to wait it out and see what happened. Then the conclusion I came to was that's actually not why I came here. And I'm here to inspire people and do comedy and have this experience of being a person, even though I know it's not real. That's why I came. So I'm going to do that. And I decided, okay, I'm going to be in the world and do the things and have a great time. But man, I tell you what, I spoke to another master who's also pretty high level. And he told me that there's basically two, and I didn't actually know this, that there's two paths when you really wake up. There's only really two ways to go. One is the bodhisattva, which is everyone before me, right? You will help all beings wake the fuck up before you leave, which is actually what Christ spoke through me as I died. And then the other one, I think it's called the arahat, if I'm not mistaken. And it's the absolute, when you really wake up, it's all a fucking joke. There's no point to any of it. Like there's nothing to do. And they're above it all and they do nothing with their lives. They could just be a bum. It doesn't make any difference.
Yeah.
And they're both, and apparently this is interesting. He said certain old schools of, mystery schools would actually make their students sign a promise saying if they reach enlightenment, that they promise not to go that route, that they promise to help other beings. But the agreements were worthless because if you really wake up and that's what happens, you don't care what you sign. You're literally, there's nothing you can do. And I was in that for a while where I was like, fuck, I think I'm going to leave the world. And I really had to sit with it. And then I went, no, that's not my path. And I'm glad not because, I want to be here. I want to help people.
There's a good quote by Ken Wilber. And he said, if you're having a dream at night and in the dream, there are children that are starving, there's two things that you can do. One is you can feed them and the other is you can wake up.
Yeah.
And he said they're both legitimate. It's almost it's paradoxical, but that's the same. It's like when you really, really wake up, you realize there's no one to teach. There's nothing to do anyway. So what's the point? But at the same time, there also is a point. There is a point and there isn't a point. At the same time, it's like absurd, but it is
absurd.
It's all paradox. It's all paradox. The answer to this is usually both and neither. When someone says, but it can't be this and that, and it's like, well, yeah, actually, it's both and neither of them at the same time, which is what oneness is really, non-duality.
Well, obviously at this point, I'm like, okay, what's the fucking point? That's what was happening. I'm like, what's the point of trying to wake everybody up? It's all myself and all those individual bits are going to wake up anyway. I know that's happening for everyone at their own level. So why do I have to do anything? And actually I realized, because for me personally, I'm not speaking for everybody, but it might be similar in their own way for everybody. The fact that I took a body means, and we do have individual souls, even though we're all God, we're these individual parts of God, right? So and that is eternal, just as much as the I am self is eternal. The soul is also absolutely eternal. So my idea of fun is helping other souls return to God. That's my idea of a good time. And so I chose this because I wanted to have a good time doing my soul's work, which is waking up and helping other people wake up. So that's why I did it. If I didn't want to do it, why would I be here? I would have stayed as the infinite. There would be no point. So the answer for me is actually the third path. Realize it's a dream and do it anyway, because the other parts of myself are suffering. The suffering is real, even though it's a dream. Like when you have a nightmare, it's not real, but during the nightmare, it's still shitty, right? You're running away, somebody's chasing you, you're terrified. It's a shitty dream. So even though it's a dream, what do I want? It's very real for the people who are suffering. So if I can help those beings have a happy dream rather than a nightmare, that's good enough for me. So that's my vow. I'm going to stick around here. I'm going to help as many people as I can.
Another quote's just come to mind, Alan Watts, where he says, when you wake up, you realize it's all a game, but then you think, do you know what? It might be fun to carry on playing, but you play, but you keep playing knowing it's a game, as opposed to not realizing it's a game and thinking everything is dead serious.
And that's the rub right there. When people when they're really in the story and the ego and they really think it's real, they're suffering. This level of suffering is tremendous. Like I look at people now and I just see they're in this ego story, whether that story is I have to have $1 million or I have to have this many followers or I have to have sex with this many people, whatever the bullshit story is for you to feel good enough. It's like, dude, you're God. There's nothing you have to do to achieve. There's nothing there's no one to impress. It's all a fucking dream. You're literally all it is in a human body. What do you have to do to feel worthy? Nothing. And that's the point here. So you can only really enjoy life when you wake up. That's what I've realized. I can have fun because it doesn't matter what happens. I've already won. I'm eternal. So I can go and do whatever, do the comedy and travel and do whatever. And if tomorrow I get hit by a bus or they say, oh yeah, you got some, whatever, the planet's ending tomorrow, or you got some weird disease, you got a week to live, I'd be like, okay, so what? I mean, when you really know you're not the person, what? Just have a blast. Go rock climbing. Oh, you might get killed. So that would be worrying if you thought you were a person. But when you really know you're not the body, who gives a shit? Do whatever you want. It's absolute. You can only really live. I mean, I get that. I've heard different versions of that quote, but it's basically, you can only live after you've died, or you need to die before you can live. Some various versions. Makes absolute sense, as does the quote, and the truth shall set you free. Holy shit, is it freeing?
Yep.
And I get when the Christians say they're spreading the good news. It's fucking great news. You're immortal. You're forever. It doesn't get any better than that. It's really good news.
but the thing is like you even knowing it intellectually isn't the same as when these direct experiences that you had. There's been energetic shifts in the body that, like the shedding, needs to happen for you to, and I've heard other people talk about this, that there's an energetic shift that happens, a relaxation, where the body and the mind really realizes that actually it's not a solid thing, there's nothing to defend. You can know it all day long in your mind. That won't change the fact, that won't get rid of the fear, that won't get rid of the fear, of the feeling of separation. It has to happen through direct experience once or multiple times to really shed that layer and to be able to do that. So like, even with all this stuff we've talked about, even if someone was listening to you talk and they're like, oh yeah, I get it with my mind, of course it makes sense, it's not the same thing as a direct experience, because with the direct experience that you can't even begin to describe really what it is, because even though you've described it very well, I bet it's not even 1% of what actually happened.
No, it's not. It can't be. It really can't be described at all. It's funny. I told a friend. This happens with a couple of people. I'll sort of explain it to them, and they'll try and relate to it. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, I did mushrooms once, and it was really fun, and I realized I was connected to everything. So I kind of know what you're talking about." And I'm just looking at them like, "You have no fucking idea what I'm talking about," but that's okay. And I'll just phrase it like. And the thing is, when it really happens, it's like, I mean, you can't really go around telling people you're enlightened, because they'll think you're insane. They'll think and only the ego wants to tell people that you're enlightened. So I always just talk about it in a way that's like, oh yeah, we all have these experiences, and some of them are small and some of them are big, and it goes deeper every time. And it's all, and I phrase it in that way. So as not to, but yeah. It's a weird one.
There was one experience I had a couple of years ago, also with cannabis, and I experienced like a collapse, a collapsing of like the depth that everything has. There's a feeling now as I'm sitting here, there's a feeling of depth. There's a me in here, and that you're over there, and there's this depth. All of that just went, and it just almost flattened out. And in that moment, when it happened, what came to me was, it was so absurd. It was so nonsensical that I was like, oh, this is why this is why you can't get this. Because it was just utterly absurd. And yeah, so what came to me was, oh, this is why you can't get it. And the second one was, I'm never going to get back here. That was what the two thoughts that came to me. When this ends, there's no way I'm ever going to get back, because it just was beyond anything that I could even imagine that it was ever like. I can't even remember it now, other than what I've just told you. But it was a collapse. That was the experience, was a collapsing, and it was flashing in and out, like the me was kind of there and then not there, and then there and then not there. It lasted about half an hour, and then I went to bed. I woke up the next day and it was just gone. but it was a surprise, complete surprise, and not anything like what I thought it might be. Because when it was happening, there wasn't anybody there. That's the thing. It wasn't John having an enlightenment experience. It was awareness having a John-free moment. And when there's no John there, then there's nobody there to know what it is. There's just what's happening without anybody there that knows it, which is just ridiculous. But
yeah, it's a trippy one. Like for me, it's very simple to talk about these things. But again, I realize for other people, it just sounds crazy. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, it's waking up is when you realize you're not real. Like literally, if you want to wake up, you have to realize you're not real. The filter you've been going through in this whole world, it's all made up. You're literally not a person. You're not a person. You were never a person. No. The person that is here, what, 80 years, 100 years? Great. How old is infinite consciousness awareness that's created all worlds? What's the age? That's your nature. So tell me what's more real? What's more real?
Yeah, I know.
Eternal consciousness, or Sasha, who gets to live to 100, and even if you live to 200, you know what I mean? It's ridiculous.
And I've had that realization has hit me before. I usually get it when I'm waking up in the morning, because obviously when you go to sleep at night and you go into deep sleep, you do go in, you're almost in some way returning to source. And in the morning I wake up and I'm like, what's more likely that all of this is real and that I'm a human being and that all of these people and all the stories and all that's real, or there's just infinite consciousness as I forever, just me forever. And I have also, when I was in Mexico and I did Bufo, that feeling that I didn't break through, but I had that feeling. I was on the cusp of it, and that feeling of just being, it's always just been you, all of it, always, could not be anything other than you forever. That feeling is the most sacred feeling a human being could ever have. It's just the most unconditional feeling of crystalline, pure love. It almost like I can't, there's no words for it, but that's what love is one realizing that it's just you forever.
Yeah, it's more than like we're all brothers and sisters. We're literally one consciousness experiencing itself through infinite forms. It's a hell of a trip.
Yeah, man. Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you very much for sharing that. That's sure our watchers and listeners will have gotten
now.
A lot
People are probably wondering, how the hell does this actually affect what you're doing in life? Great question, John, and I'll answer that question. So about 5 years ago, I was helping out on a friend. I was just basically taking another friend's course, Steve Pavlina, and it was one of these workshops where people just he kind of makes it up as we go along, and you do exercises, and it was really, really cool. And at the end of it, I just said, "Hey, anybody want to learn how to do stand-up comedy?" And about half the people were like, "Yeah, we'd like to do that." So I basically showed them like what's funny, what's not funny, how to write jokes, all this kind of stuff. And in the end, everybody went up and did a couple of minutes of stand-up, and it was fucking hysterical. Like I realized that day, like every single person has funny stuff going on. Every single person has trauma and crazy stories and weird things and weird beliefs and all kinds of stuff that is funny. And after that, it was quite profound. And after that, I went away from that, and I was like, and people messaged me from that and was like, "Oh, that was really great," and asking me questions and stuff. And I started to realize that being able to look at your story and share it and make fun of yourself and to actually see it as hey, here's my shit, here's my fucked up stuff, here's my life, and to be able to share it with other people was really, really, really powerful. And so over the last 5 years, once in a while, maybe once or twice a year, I would do something called comedy therapy, which basically it's a bunch of exercises to get people present with each other, vulnerable, and sharing their shit, sharing their story authentically in a group, in a safe space where we can just share who we are without the mask, to take off that mask of like, I'm so perfect, here's who I am, I'm successful. Take that off and just give me your shit. Like, tell me who you really are. And then after getting comfortable with that, actually teaching people how to actually write jokes and look at their story as funny. And like, what can we do with all the stuff that's happened to you? And it's just been so much fun. And every single person always comes up with brilliant, funny stuff. It's hilarious. And it's very, very healing because because everyone's got this heaviness from their life, maybe something that happened as a kid or your parents or stuff you picked up on, patterns you picked up on, and it's a heaviness. And when you actually see it, you see your pattern, you see your shit, and then you start laughing about it, you're literally joking about it, that energy leaves the body, right? It's really, really powerful. So basically, I've just been focusing on that and developing that. And for the first time ever, at the end of this month, we're launching an online comedy therapy. So it's basically the same program, but you can do it from anywhere in the world. And it's 8 weeks of training where we work through all the stuff together and develop a comedy act. And at the end, you'll be not only workshopping in a group. In the very final mission, you actually go to a comedy club or an open mic and you actually perform your personal, 5 minutes of stand-up comedy. So that's where all this has led up to at this point in my life. It's super fun, and so it's really cool.
Is it the online course? Is it a live course where people come on a call like this and interact with each other, or is it like videos?
Oh no, it's live. The whole thing is live. So we meet up, we hang out, I play some clips, we talk about them, and we slowly over the 8 weeks together. And then we also, Zoom is actually awesome because you can do breakout rooms. So breakout rooms into smaller groups where people workshop their jokes and share with each other. Sometimes there'll be one-on-one exercises, but ultimately building up to you being able to joke about you and your trauma and your story at the end, which is so powerful because even if you're like, oh, well, I never wanted to do comedy, I don't care. The ability to like how you connect with people authentically when you're able to really show who you are without the mask, right? Like, this is me, this is my shit, this is my trauma, this is my fear. When you can really show who you are, it feels so good not to hide. It feels so good to really put yourself out there authentically. But then whoever you're standing in front of, that you're being real with, it inspires them to actually share who they truly are with you, right? So, and that's the thing. That's the problem with this fake world. Everybody's acting like I'm this person. I'm so perfect. I made this much money last year. Look at me. Look, I'm in fancy clothes. So then the people you're meeting are also like, oh, I'm also very successful, by the way. So it's these stories. It's literally just two masks. Right? There's no authenticity. No wonder people get married and then divorced after 6 months because the two masks met each other, acted like they were perfect, and then they get married and they realize, oh, that's not the person I thought. So getting down to the nitty gritty of who you are, man, it's really something. And you no longer connect on that surface level with people. You're able to really, when you really know yourself and you're okay with your shit, you can really connect much deeper with people. So it's really, I could have just called it an authentic communication course, but I thought comedy therapy just sounded more interesting. So I'm like, fuck it, we'll call it that.
Yeah, that's a good name. And so when is your online course?
So this one's the first time we're doing it. Starts end of this month. We're shooting for May 31st, and it's going to run for 8 weeks. And then, and then at that point, I'll do it again. But this is it. This is the first time I'm running it. Yeah.
Cool, man. So when I post this video, I'll put a link underneath.
Yeah.
For the course. So if any of you watching are interested and would like to interact with this strange chap that's looking at me, then you can check that out. It sounds really good. It does sound interesting. And yeah, I mean, I know a lot of people with trauma. I have trauma myself, and it's definitely and you're right. Everybody's so heavy. And it's like, oh, my story, and this happened to me, and it's like victim. So being able to see it for what it is and laugh about it, and also realize it's not even you anyway, because nothing ever happened. That's the thing, is that even though there's a story of trauma, it didn't really happen because nothing ever happened. So,
but we won't go that deep. We won't go that deep on this course. It really is just about having fun.
Oh, no, not on the course.
Yeah.
Because it's just scare everybody off.
Yeah. You're not real. Do your comedy show. No.
Yeah. Save that for the next
that'll
one.
That'll be a different
maybe
course.
the advanced course is where you go into the light and stuff. Cool, man. It's been a pleasure as always. So thank you very much. And I think it would be great to get you on again at some point in the future, because we could have carried on talking about this for many more hours.
For sure. Let's do one next time I'm back in the UK. Yeah. We'll do one in the flesh. Those are more fun.
Yeah, man, definitely.
Beautiful.
All right. Cool,
okay,
man.
My friend.
Thank you very much. And
sending you mucho love.
I hope everybody listening enjoyed that. And I will see you, everybody, on the next podcast. So bye for now.
Bye, everybody. Love you all. So now you can hit unrecord, and then I'll